Hey guys, so a lot's been going on. I have finally talked to my dad about the gender dysphoria, and I was apprehensive about that. I know I've talked before about it's been kind of an up and down thing with my parents, though I feel very fortunate because they are both very accepting. They have seem to have a better understanding, or as I would say, maybe the best of an understanding someone can have that doesn't understand what it's like to go through GD or to go through gender dysphoria. And I didn't expect my dad to be as accepting as he was because we've had a lot of up and down battles over the years in different ways, but he really was gentle about it all and listened and wanted to know what had been going on with me and things I hadn't told him about in the last 5 years, give or take. So yeah, I gave him the whole story of how this was going on behind the scenes with me and how it had been escalating and how I had cross-dressed at 13 and how I had little pieces of this creep in throughout my life at different points with thoughts and different things, and how I blocked out those thoughts, how I blocked out that I had cross-dressed, how I blocked out feeling femme at 11 in puberty. I didn't have the real strong dysphoria, overwhelming as a kid, but I definitely didn't have a core identity, and I had in a lot of ways my childhood was unstable. But we went through everything had been going on, and he just said I need to be myself, that I need to be who I am. And he even made a joke. It was interesting. He even made a joke saying that, well, he was at first talking about, well, you could be like Caitlyn Jenner. And I guess because I'm older, I said, well, Caitlyn Jenner's got a lot of money. He's talking about, I guess, he's just talking about, I guess, transition. Well, I guess he was saying, well, if Caitlyn Jenner could do it after all the years of being a man, then you can do it. But I thought, well, Caitlyn had a lot of money, but then he went into a joke about saying, well, don't immediately go out. I wouldn't immediately go out in pearls and heels. And he's obviously making a joke. He was just kind of laughing, like, I don't know if I would do that because I've seen he works on the road and he does these shows. He's a salesman, and he said, I saw somebody like that, and he was just commenting that the person in no way had basically looked like a man in women's clothes because he hadn't done anything. He had facial hair and body hair and all this stuff where he had no way. There was just nothing, he said, that this person was doing to present as a woman. That's why he said that. He wasn't trying to be ugly about it. And I said, no, I've carefully thought it out. And I know I've talked about this before. I've talked about my psychologist too, how I would go about it. I would take hormones and then let the hormones take action on me for a little bit, and get facial hair removal, my neck hair and stuff. I don't have much body hair. There's some things really working for me, like I'm short and I'm small for the most part, and I've always had little body hair, more like a lady actually in that sense. But I would get my facial neck hair removed and let hormones do their magic to what extent it can. And because I don't have a lot of money, so you have to think of things like this. How would you go about it without much money, without little means? There's ways to do it. because I don't want to be bullied. I don't want to put myself in unnecessary bullying, unnecessary situations. I don't want to go out there and just be uh, putting myself in danger. I feel like why do that when I can try to just let things take hold, be patient, and pay close attention to how I'm being perceived as things are happening. And I was telling my dad, as I can wear guys' clothes even if I can't afford to buy a lot right now. I can wear guys' clothes, and it'll be okay. I would, at best, if I was starting to uh, be gendered as female, then I would at best maybe look tomboyish. Maybe people would think I'm lesbian, which really I guess I am. Uh, well, if I'm going to transition and be trans female, I would consider myself trans femme lesbian because I'm mostly attracted to women. Um, Not to say I can't find men attractive, some I do. Um, but mostly I'd say 98%. I was trying to take a percentage or so, is probably women. But in any case, I'm just saying, we tend to forget. I think there's probably trans femmes out there that forget. You don't have to. We get stereotypes in our head of what we should look like, and forget there's all types of people out there, men and women, that look all types of ways. And that's what I think about realistically. I try to think of all the different types of women I see in the world, and that helps me to think, okay, you don't have to be any certain way or certain stereotype to be able to do this. So we were talking about that. I said, no, I wouldn't just go out and try to wear things that I thought I couldn't get by passing with. Not to say if others want to do that, that's their business, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to be putting myself in situations. Not only that could be dangerous for me, but also it would hurt my confidence, and it would hurt um, it would cause more gender dysphoria to put myself in situations where I could be misgendered when I know I'm not maybe at a level to be able to pull off high heels and be decked out like that, even though I'm not going to say I wouldn't like that. I like heels, and I like clothes like that. But I'm just saying I try to put myself in a realistic situation to be able to, you know, keep my mental health good, things like that. So that conversation was a relief. Now, have I had depression though? Yeah, my depression, it goes up and down. And something else that helped me understand this a little bit is Dr. Z. So any of you going through gender dysphoria, or maybe you've already transitioned and you go through this, I think she made a lot of sense on this, because Dr. Z, she's on YouTube and deals with trans adults, and she specifically mainly concentrates with trans femmes and has a lot of experience with this. As she talked about the oscillation of depression with gender dysphoria before or during or after transitioning. It's just because of everything we deal with in society, how we've been brought up, or whatever our different traumas are. There's a lot of factors that play into all of this, but it can cause us feel imposter syndrome, to think that we're constantly analyzing ourselves. Can we pass? Do we pass? Or do we look a certain way? Maybe we're looking at ourselves in the mirror and we're comparing to other women, or we're for myself, I like to be a certain weight. I feel like I'm heavy now, even though I'm probably in a good range, especially if I got on hormones. I'm probably at a good weight for that, but I still would like to be 10 pounds or more smaller. So I like to be tiny or small, you know. So I think a lot of us go through our different stages that we deal with. So it's just uh, the depression can just move a lot on us, and it does on me, and it can suck. It's like a roller coaster, and it does cause thoughts of deletion, things like that. So I go see my psychologist tomorrow. I was supposed to see her last week, but her schedule was tight, and I canceled. I usually don't cancel, but it was like at 11 a.m. and she's close to where my workplace is at. I would have had to wait it like 5 hours afterwards before I went to work because I didn't want to drive. My car's not running the best, and I'm trying to keep it going as I get my finances straight. And I would just be driving back 30 minutes home and then have to go right back out that way. So I just canceled for that one. But that meant there was over a little bit over a 2 week gap on this visit. But I haven't been bad the whole time. I did have last time I seen her, I was in a bad way, and she was concerned, and she talked about uh, antidepressants again, and that really might be something that I should do, maybe for at least a little while. I'm thinking we were talking about Lexapro. It's something I took years ago, and it was the only one I'd ever taken that had a good effect on me, and that's why it was recommended, because I had told her and the doctor before that if I took one, they agreed. Hey, if that had a good effect, then maybe we should try it. She brought it up again because she's concerned. I've just been trying to avoid taking them because, you know, even though they can help and they do help people a lot, they also alter you. They can have some side effects. But I also realize you don't always have to take them forever. Unlike hormones, I would if I want to look as much like a lady as I'd like. You know, I would. That's what's been keeping me, and I'm still struggling with that. And many of us do, I think, that go through this. It's just not an easy decision. The gender dysphoria is very tough, especially when you're older and it escalates on you. At, you know, me being almost 50, and it escalated in such a high way, and it escalates so much on me in the last 5 years that it causes havoc. You know, it's caused havoc in my life. And something else Dr. Zia brought up, I think, is also very true. Is, you know, we go through this depression up and down thing, but also she brought up the resilience of us, the ones of us that choose to not delete, to stay here through all of that, because it really messes with you bad. You know, like I say, coming out. Imagine how many people have gender dysphoria and they hide it. And I'm not saying they're wrong for hiding it. I mean, look what you got to deal with. You know, you deal with a lot of crap. It caused total upheaval in my life. It's caused people to leave this world. It's caused people to lose jobs, homes, out of depression, out of employers finding out how they were, whatever. I mean, society wants you to conform in a lot of ways. People pretend a lot. You know, let's face it, so many people in the world are living out scripts of how they think they're supposed to live. And even if they do feel something like gender dysphoria, they'll do what I did for years, and maybe they'll tell themselves they're evil. Maybe they'll tell themselves they're bad. Maybe they do know people in their lives will disown them. How many parents do disown their children? I'm fortunate in this way. I mean, me and my parents don't agree on everything. They know they did make a lot of mistakes when I was a child. Of course, my stepdad's been there since I was 12, but at the same time, now, today, they could have been like a lot of parents and walk away. My mom, you know, she was fighting with this more too, but last night she said, well, her birthday was yesterday, and we were talking last night late. She was up late, and she said, "Well, many years ago, she got pregnant when her and my stepdad got together, and she lost the baby. It was a miscarriage. I'm an only child, and she had said, well, I had wanted a girl. I mean, not meaning she didn't want me, she did, but she was just saying that she said it had been I had wished I could have also had a girl. She said, so if you do this, I'll show you makeup and help you do your hair and things like that. That's sweet. It's I didn't expect her to say that, and I still haven't made a decision. You see me here though. It's like I still want to get on here and look feminine, things like that. But I still struggle with pulling the trigger on the hormones, because I know once I go there, I will make the commitment. I feel like if I'm going to do that, I'm going to make the commitment to be able to live my life out as a trans woman, and just continue moving forward. I just haven't made that final push because I still going in those depressive spirals up and down. When I'm in that depression, it's like I'm also trying to think, oh, can I go back? I may think, oh, could I grow my facial hair and stuff with my long hair and make that work? And I could, I could, if I could accept covering up the dysphoria for the rest of my life. Or I might get confused sometimes because I've had ladies at my job that a couple of them, flirty conversations and fun conversations. It's interesting though, because this flirting and conversations aren't like they used to be when I was the fake masculine and just being edgy and cool and all of that stuff. This is more like a mix of camaraderie of my femininity mixing with them. Like, for instance, the other night I had an older lady come in. I thought she was attractive. I'm attracted to all kinds of women. By the way, I don't have a certain type. Older, younger, different builds, types, personality means a lot too to me. Their feminine energy means a lot to me, but me and her were just flowing, because I oftentimes put on this certain perfume at work that we sell. It's really popular. I've never had anyone directly comment me wearing it though, and she did, and she said, is that coming off of you? And I said, yes. I said, it is. It's simply sexy, yours truly. She said, I love that. I said, well, I just sold the last one the day before. When I was talking to her, I said, I just sold the last one yesterday. We sell out of it a lot. She said, oh, wow. I said, I had to come back and get some of that. I say, yeah. But it's like, it's just a different feel now with some of the ladies I talked to. And then I've had a couple of other ones in there too, where we had really longer, fun conversations flowing back and forth. And I'm being myself. I'm not being some fake guy with an agenda. I used to do that. Be this fake masculine guy with this agenda. As I'm talking to a girl, constantly gauging what she's into so I can see what I'm into. This isn't what I do anymore. I'm into what I'm into. I'm feminine in a lot of ways. So I act how I am, and I'm just being who I am. And I'm analyzing this as it's going along. I'm just like, wow, this is so interesting. And but at the same time, I go through depression thinking, what if I was that old guy that worked in this place? And I think about how he would try to pick up girls, but then I think about that was all fake and bullshit. So, but I go through all this stuff, as the old masculine guy. I used to do a lot of, I would do impersonations of other males, like Zach Bagans of Ghost Adventures, and Matthew McConaughey, and Andrew Dice Clay, and I would do all these different props. I tried to go back into that too. It just felt like it was an old timeline. I don't know if you know what I mean. I've talked about timelines before, but it's like some parts of your life, it just seems like a door shuts. And no matter what you do, you can't open it again. So, what do? You can't keep trying to open and force that door back open, and it doesn't work, and then more depression and darkness happens. That's what happens to me. But what I do notice is when I'm being myself, I'm feminine, I'm in my energy, and I'm accepting at work. That's how it always is for the most part, that I'm more vibrant, I'm more lively. It's just trying to get myself to where I stop oscillating back and forth, where I can say, okay, look, you're happier this way. And I think what it is too, as I've said before, it's also knowing the differences. There's advantage and disadvantage for women and men in this world, but knowing I've lived with male privilege as far as like just going out and being anonymous, which can be good and bad. It's like a lot of men, that causes loneliness too, how so many men are walking around, and you can walk around more freely than some women in an anonymous state where a lot of times nobody's noticing you or giving you any attention unless you're an alpha chat or something. I think that there's some truth to that to some extent, but at the same time, you can walk around anonymous. So you can go out to a park at night, or you can go here or there in different situations. As a lady, probably, you gotta be a little more careful. So, what I'd say, there's more safety concerns. So I always think about that too, but then I think, is that something I need to let stop me? But I go through these thoughts, I go through all of these thoughts of, the safety issues, the plight that women have dealt with that, and abuses women have dealt with for forever, forever in time. So, but at the same time, can't ignore what's inside me, right in here, and how I feel so much of the time. And I've tried multiple times to shut it down. So that's where I'm at. Today is kind of depressive, but the last couple of days or so, I've been pretty good. I've been up because I've just been embodying my femininity more in the last few days. And tomorrow I'll talk more with my psychologist about all of this. I may decide still to take Lexapro. I kind of think maybe it'll keep me from oscillating on depression up and down so much. Maybe it will help me balance. I thought about maybe I should take a low dose of estrogen. Maybe I should ease into it just to see, because maybe I can see how quickly it's reacting with my inner being and my mind, because it's going to affect the emotion, see if it lines up the way I'm thinking it will. And if it does, then hey, just need to, it gets me excited, because if it's lining up the way I think it will, then I'll be like, you know what, I just need to, this is what I need to do. But I'm still on the fence there, thinking, okay, maybe I should ease into it. Anyway, that's where I'm at now. And I also believe in synchronicities, so I have to think about that too. Things seem to go in a much better direction when I'm embodying my authenticity and who I am. And being femme is that, I see how my parents are now like very accepting. My dad treats me in a different way, but it's positive. It's like in a more gentle way. The way we had that conversation, and we talked again the other night, and I did make a joke. I said, it seems like I've lived multiple lifetimes in one life, and he kind of laughed. I think he kind of got it, because I've just been these fake characters a lot of my life. Not to say there wasn't some truth in there, but not embodying a core identity, knowing who I truly am. And going back to how many people are out there, do you think, that hide? They'll spend their life. They could be extremely gender dysphoric, and they decide they're going to just live it out. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I could see why you would, but I know with me, every time I try to go on that path, the depression just comes over me, and that's what sucks about it. But anyway, on another note, maybe this is a good movie if you're gender dysphoric to watch. Now, it's not. You got to pay attention to it to a degree, because it's not the easiest to follow necessarily, but it's really hits home with this sort of thing with gender dysphoria, and it's called I Saw the TV Glow. I watched this last 2 nights. It took me 2 nights because I don't always sit through a whole movie in one sitting. But this movie touched me in a lot of ways because, the director had said it had to do with gender dysphoria, and they are trans femme. The director is. I think they transitioned in 2019. But this movie's very unique, and you just have to see it. It's hard to explain, but your 2 main characters are in the 90s as teenagers, and they start hanging out. It's a male and a female that start hanging out together watching this TV show called The Pink Opaque, which is kind of like, I don't think you can completely compare it to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but something on that lines is kind of what you would maybe think about. They're watching this in the mid-90s, and they imagine, it's like I said, hard to explain, but they both are, when you start watching this, you'll know they're both obviously queer, or they may be trans. You'll automatically start picking, if you're gender dysphoric, if you're queer, if you're gay or bi or any of this, you're likely going to pick up on these cues in this movie with these characters. And they connect to this show. And the male in it, there's just things that really point to him being trans femme. And you can see it's just tearing him up inside. And there's just all this different stuff that ties into it. But you just have to watch it, because there's so many, it's told in such a unique and kind of bizarre way. That's why I say this, but I just wanted to mention this movie because I really think it's fantastic in capturing what gender dysphoria feels like. I mean, it's hard to describe something like this to somebody. We can sit here and say, this is what it feels like, this is what I go through, but this movie finds really clever ways of, if you have gender dysphoria, you'd be like, yes, this is, it's embodying that mood of a lot of what it feels like to go through it. And it's just like it's tearing you up inside. And there's even a part in the movie where it's very dreamlike. He cuts himself open, but it's like dreamlike, and you see this static inside of him like a TV, and he's just ripping himself open like he's trying to embody his real self, which he identifies with a feminine character in the show, Pink Opaque. But anyway, just thought I'd mention it. Maybe something you'd want to check out. But anyway, yeah, guys, just wanted to give you an update and kind of let you know where I am on this journey. And I suppose, well, I'm sure I will. I'll be back on here and talk to y'all later on. Bye.